Welcome to the Reverse Sweep Power Rankings presented by USAA Insurance. Enable, Pacman, we've got some folks who aren't moving around. Middle of the pack shifts are happening again. Is there anyone, without giving it away yet, your power ranking, is there anyone who stood out to you as a mover this week?
Gotta be OpTic for me, Katie. Has to be OpTic without giving anything away. Biggest movement in the power rankings.
For sure, OpTic, for sure.
Well, and if you guys are wondering why they are both agreeing that it's OpTic, well, they only won one map this week. And if you do that math, that means they didn't win any of their series. They got 3-1'd by New York. They got 3-0'd. Yeah, they got 3-0'd by HECZ in a 40-minute long series, including ads, which is real fast. Some other ones of note: Minnesota taking down Gorillas, Florida 3-0ing Dallas, but Dallas did bounce back to get a win later in the week. Paris, Gorillas, Seattle still continuing to struggle, and week 3 did them no favors to close out this stage before the major. Let's look at those overall standings as well. Toronto, the only team to go flawless, 5-0. They dropped one map, 15-1 was their record. The top of Group A. Top of Group B, New York Subliners. Congratulations to them. They are looking great. HECZ in that second place position. Florida, second place in Group A. Dallas, by the skin of their teeth, winning the final series of the week to get that winner's bracket start in third. And folks like Paris and Seattle, unfortunately, continuing to sit at the bottom of their groups. Now, let's take a look at these power rankings. Enable, Pacman, you do them for us every week. You do a great job. And you know who's not doing a great job? Paris and Seattle. They fucking suck. I don't know how much there is to say about that. I'll let you guys
Katie, say it one more time. Say that.
They fucking suck. All right, give me Paris, Seattle, guys. What do you got to say?
Seattle made a change. You're supposed to have some type of honeymoon. They did not. They come out and lose to Atlanta. That's a tough first match, granted, right? We don't expect them to win that even before. But then you go up against London, and whether or not you expect them to win or lose, it should be a contest.
Close.
That wasn't a contest. They were getting bodied all over the map. It was an embarrassing performance, to say the least. They didn't look good at all. They didn't look confident. They weren't on the same page. Their pacing was off. I don't know what was it supposed to be. He's supposed to add slang to the team. That was supposed to make them win all of a sudden. That did not happen. They're not good. Seattle is not good. I don't know what. They haven't been good. What is the stat, Ian? What is the stat? This stat was incredible when I read it on Twitter the other day. I believe it's what?
Oh, yeah, Leah. Let me go ahead and say it.
Yeah.
Listen, all I got to say about Seattle is this. Hey, Black Ops 4 COD champs, me and Sam on our 100 seed team, we went 9-2 series count, I believe. We won 9 series at COD champs alone. Since then, Sam's record, I believe, is 9-29. So we won the same amount of series
in one weekend.
In 1 weekend, 2 days, that Sam has won since then. Since
BO4?
Since Black Ops 4, Sam has won 9 total series. I love Sam.
We all do.
Yeah, love Sam. They just aren't good. And I think, every team's honeymoon period really shows their true potential. Like, if you're not playing really well in your honeymoon period, you're not going to just magically become a force. Because that's when everything's going well. That's when you're really not, running into all these issues and complaining and kind of being negative. So Seattle just don't look that great. Decimate hasn't improved them to maybe what they thought they were going to get to. And they're in a tough spot. They're in a very tough spot to make it the champs.
Yeah, and I think a team like Paris as well to note. 11th, I broke up with them in the review show. I'm tired of being led on. Same with 10th. I don't know if either of these teams just forgot to book the tickets for their honeymoons, but they clearly never happened. And that's why we're going to just breeze on by to Gorillas, who did drop down from 9th. They dropped down 1 to 10. And, well, you bring in Chino, and Chino's had some great moments, but the team, you're still bumping them down to 10th. Why is that, Ian?
I mean, LAG looked good their first match with Sheen. But I think what we've been touching on is their potential. Benching Vivid, a player who is very impactful for Sheen, who is great in his own right, but with this style of play that LAG has, they just become very slow, very predictable, and their ceiling's low. It's low. So you kind of saw that with the remaining series that they played in Stage 3. and they don't have much upside, Katie. They don't. So that's where they're at right now. They're definitely not the worst team in the league, but they're not necessarily in the top half either.
They've lost a lot of close matches, but they've lost them all. You know what I mean? They're always in this position where they aren't clutching up, and that's what we're talking about, the ceiling. It's just if they had some more explosive players doing the same exact things, they would close out these games. I do believe that LAG still has like the potential to win a lot more than they are, to actually get in that 8th spot still, to get it back, but it's just a really tough road for them because all their series, they never dominate anything ever. So all their series wins come down to the wire. They're losing a lot of close series. They're just in a tough spot. So that's why we have them where they have them.
Yeah, tough spot. We'll see if they can dig their way out of that. London moving up 1 place to 9th. They beat Seattle 3-1 in pretty dominant fashion, but it's also Seattle. So London, I do think they look better, but John, how much better is better when you're still only going up 1 spot to 9th?
At least they're competitive. Like, that's why we have them in the top of the bottom 4. They look to be competing at a decent level pretty consistently. I'm not sure what it is about this London team, but it looks like they're on the same page at least. Once again, they have run into an issue where they probably don't have the same level of just top-end talent a lot of teams have, but at least they're out there battling. Like, what they did to Seattle was great. They walked out there and absolutely dismantled them. So we moved them up. Like, they showed us that they are at least looking to be informed going into the major. So for all the teams at the bottom, we have them looking the best.
Couldn't have said it better myself, John. Couldn't have said it better myself. Go Ravens.
Well, right above them, and this is not a name I would have expected to say, in 8th in the power rankings, the biggest mover of the week and the one you teased at the beginning of the show, OpTic, spiraling down 3 places to 8th. Once a team that we had as potentially a second, third best team in the game. You guys have them at 8th place. Ian, why is OpTic kind of spiraling down so much?
I'm scared, Katie, that what we originally thought was a slump is just reality. It is just the level of team that they are. For me, they cannot win a respawn versus the top half of the league. And, it's very hard to be successful if that's the case, let alone have the players that OpTic does. It's even worse because, if you're maybe a team like some of the ones we just named previously, you're like, oh, we're just getting, we don't got the talent. They got superstars. We just can't compete. You look at OpTic and you're saying, you have 4 of the best players in the game when it comes to talent, but we just can't put it together. And I'm worried that it might end in a roster change if they don't do well at this major. They're starting in losers bracket. This OpTic team is starting in losers bracket, and the competition is unbelievable. And it has been.
Who do they play? Do you guys know?
They play either Gorillas or Surge, which is good for them. So I assume they'll play the Gorillas, which is a really good starting match.
I'm just curious about the potential of getting first rounded, and if it's Seattle/Gorillas, okay, then probably they'll be fine.
Huh? I don't even know what I was saying, but
okay, you were saying roster change, so I just wanted to mention their potential major matchup on the chance that if they do get first rounded, roster change becomes much more likely.
Yes, no, without a doubt. Fundamentally, they're just behind. I want to give them benefit of the doubt. They keep saying that, they're really putting the time in. I know they are. I know it's hard. But just watching, it seems like they're relying on talent and talent alone. They make way too many obvious mistakes that not only if you want to be a championship team, if you want to be a contender or top team, you just cannot make. And they seem to keep making them. And that's why we have them where we have them. This is just reality. It's not a slump anymore. They just aren't that great of a team at the moment.
Perception versus reality. We expect them to be something that they're just not. And they just aren't even confident about it anymore, right? Mm-hmm. All those respawn losses to the top teams, those add up slowly over and over and over again, especially when pretty much everyone was calling you the best respawn team in the game early on in the season. Even when FaZe was clearly the best team, we were still saying Chicago OpTic was the best respawn team in the game. From where they started there, they've fallen completely off that cliff. They're never going to be a top search and destroy team. Even if it improves, it's going to improve to the point where it's now solid. But losing all those respawns, now we have a very, very, very average team that doesn't have confidence because they're so used to winning respawns. They're so used to it, and they just don't have that anymore. I'm not really sure what the issue is, but we need confidence out of them. Their pacing is completely off all the time. They ego chow at the wrong times. It just I don't understand what is going on with them, but they got to fix it. Yes, they played Atlanta on the ping with the ping disadvantage, but had they played on LAN, Atlanta would have beat them down too. Probably not the same, but they would have beat them too. And it's just, this isn't what we expect from a team with all these type of players on it, and it's never gonna be okay. It's never gonna sit right with the OpTic fans. Every single loss, they start going after. They're going after Cinder at this point. They're going, give me Karma. They're screaming for the heavens for anything to change. Why didn't we get who?
Karma. He playing Tarkov.
The fans are so used to them winning. They've built such a reputation for success and content and all these things, but the success comes first, and they need to get back to that point. I know they have more pressure on them than any other team. And I think it's built up to that point where it's about to burst, and if they don't hurry up and like fix that leak, it's going to be over with for this roster.
Yeah, well, I have faith. Hopefully, we can see some momentum from them. Perhaps at the major, see some spark of what we saw at the beginning of the year come back from that team. And a reminder, guys, Reverse Sweep is presented by USAA Insurance. They make it super easy to insure all of your stuff like rigs and gear, and they have your back. Insurance provided by United Services Automobile Association and its affiliates in San Antonio, Texas. Eligibility restrictions apply. Well, let's get to our best of the bottom. ROKKR, you moved them down one spot, so they'll now be in 7th. They've looked good, they've looked bad, they've looked mediocre, but you guys bumped them down to 7th. Why is that?
Go ahead, John.
I mean, this is a team that everything was looking good for them, right? They picked up Standy, they started winning hard points finally, everything was pointing in the right direction, and then it all started to fall apart. Now they're going into the losers bracket. They lost to me, which is an unforgivable match, to this version of the Dallas Empire, and they finished it out 2-3. And I think that we said this before, somewhere in the middle of the stage it didn't feel like the same ROKKR team that it was before. They were winning a lot of close matches before, granted, but it felt like they were all on the same page and everything was clicking. So that bounce back, because if you remember, they were terrible at a point. They were absolutely awful at a point, and when they picked up Standy, it flipped the switch. And they went through that honeymoon period, and they still showed us that they were strong. And now slowly they're starting to fall back into that old form where they're just not consistent. They're not closing. They're not playing the way that they need to play to win. They're just having close matches with everyone. They could easily be 1-4. They almost lost to Gorillas, but Priesta had like 8. I don't know. He went something Super Saiyan.
Went off.
Yeah, on game 5.
He
so
was 17-4, I think.
Right, like something ridiculous. So we have those performances, and obviously those are great. But if you need those to win close matches against lower ranked opponents, it's not a great sign at the end of the day. But so that's why we have them down here in 7th.
They're plateauing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that boys still can't win a damn hard point.
Yeah, it fell back.
I don't get more nervous watching hard points than when it's either Florida or Minnesota. That map 1 makes me so nervous. Yeah. They're not teams that you get particularly confident in. But speaking of Florida, they did move up 2 in our power rankings to number 6. A team that's also kind of historically struggled in hard points. But they've had some decent plays with Havoc. Awakening is still incredible, and you got them in the top 6. Also, Ian, I think we've mentioned this at one point or another. They are now in the top 8 for champs. They have 8th in terms of standings. So you've also bumped them up to 6th in the power rankings. Explain that.
They're starting to hit form, Katie. I think we got to show them love. We've talked about this Florida team when they had Slack with Havoc. The matter is, like, they were so hit or miss. Like, we knew the potential. Like, this team has a very high ceiling. They have an absolute superstar in Big Wake. Skies is one of the best main ARs. Up-and-comer Neptune. And now they have Havoc, who he's been around. He has experience. He's great in his own right. But for me, they're finally starting to hit rhythm. They're in winners bracket at this major, which is huge. They ended stage 3, 3-2, but it doesn't matter. They made it to the winners bracket. And I think Havoc has just been a nice breath of fresh air. He hasn't played the greatest individually, but I think you need to give him some more time. You know, we've seen how good Havoc can be and how impactful he can be on the map stats aside, but I think he's giving them energy, right? And the passion. Every time I watch their series, his energy is there. You can tell when they do the listen-ins, and they're starting to kind of iron out the kinks, right? And be a more consistent team from top to bottom. So we know that this team can be great, and I think they're really starting to find that. Now they just need to put together the final couple pieces, and they'll be on their way. They'll be on their way to being able to be considered a top team. But for right now, they look good. They're on the up and up. So I think that's why we got to put them here.
Yeah, everyone knows they have the superstar talent. Once they figure out hardpoint completely, once they start pulling out more consistent victories in that mode, they're going to instantly become a top team. Everyone knows how scary these guys can be. When they start looking good, when they're on form, Skies and Awakening, they're the top AR duo in the game, or one of the top AR duos in the game easily. Yeah. So once they're all on that same page and Havoc gets more comfortable on the map with the team, I mean, we already seen little glimpses of it, right? They're going to be scary. This is exactly what happened last year, where out of nowhere, they became just dominant.
That's a great point.
And they have that ability. They have it in them. They just need to find whatever it is that gets them over that little bit of hump. And right now, it looks like they're going in that direction. So 6th place it is for them right now.
And Dallas, you bumped them up 2 spots as well. Pacman sitting in 5th. We had him down in 7th briefly, didn't last, and the whole hook change comes in. Everything kind of gets blown up. But Dallas, you do move them up to 5th. Why is that?
They went out there and did what they needed to do. They got to winner's bracket. The reason we moved them down to begin with wasn't just because it's a power ranking. It's not an actual standing thing. So, I mean, they switched out one of the better players in the league for Fellow. So we had to bump them down. They weren't looking the best. You know what I mean? But Fellow came out and had a great week. Like, even though they lost that first match, the next match he put on. So if he's playing like that, Dallas is getting close to getting back to some type of form. May they be as good as they were with Kyler? Probably not. But they still have superstars around him, around Fellow. The rest of those guys are still champions, and they are starting to look good again. And I think that they're in a position where they could shock FaZe and go forward in this championship. We'll see. Do I believe that they'll do it? No. But I mean, if Fellow plays like that, it gives them a real opportunity.
I will say the one thing that I'm looking forward to with Fellow is I think this Empire team can be a top S&D team. That can be their sort of bread and butters. He had a 1.2 in stage 3 since joining them. I think their S&D has looked better. They've been playing better, and so they might not be the dominant force that they were with Huke and Respawns, but I really think that they can be successful in other ways, in a different dynamic, I guess. But they're solid. They seem like they're kind of getting on the same track, same page, I guess. So right now, I think where they're at is solid for them. This major is going to tell us everything when it comes to knowing how good and maybe how far Dallas can go.
Well, I want to group these two together just because you flip-flopped them. Thieves and Subliners. Thieves you did have in 3rd, Subliners in 4th. You flip-flopped those. What is your guys' reasoning for that? Why do you have them just moving one spot up, one spot down?
It's pretty straightforward, I think. I mean, NYSL just beat them. They made a team. LAT made a team change. It didn't work out in that one match. Short sample size, of course. So, I mean, we give them their props. They beat them. They move up ahead of them. NYSL and LAT both still look great. We don't know exactly with Kyler, but I'm going to assume they still look pretty decent. Mm-hmm. And NYSL is obviously a hardpoint juggernaut at this point with Hydra. So we have them at the top. It's just impossible to move them above the 2 super stacked teams that sit at the top of our power rankings every week.
NYSL got first in their group. They beat LAT. These are still 2 of the top 4 teams, without a doubt. But like John said, I think with Kyler, they might have gotten a little worse in the short term, just because we've only seen one series, but you got to give the team a little time. So this week will be huge for them. They're right there with NYSL. They are. It's neck and neck, but you got to give respect to NYSL with Hydra. They've been looking great, and they beat these in their last series. Simple as that.
Yeah, I think pretty easy. The way you break it down, Toronto FaZe, much like the bottom 2, the top 2, also have not moved. I don't know how much there is to say about them. They're really good. Pacman, you still have Toronto first, FaZe second.
Yeah, I mean, that goes without saying. Toronto deserves that top spot until the major. We see what happens if FaZe or some other team comes out and knocks them off that spot. But I mean, there's no moving Toronto at this point. There's no moving FaZe. It is what it is, right? Those two teams speak for themselves. They're both fantastic and consistent performers, and that's why they're consistently at the top.
It's simple, yeah. It's simple as that.
I want to give Ian time to say something. I just don't know how much there is to really say.
Yeah.
They got first and second at the last major. They both played fantastic in this part of stage 3. I think they're both probably the heavy favorites to win this major. Simple as that. They're just the two best teams right now until NYSL, LAT, or maybe even another team comes out of the woodworks. These are the only two that really have a chance of winning, I think.
Yeah, we will see if they are able to pull off that win, if Toronto can go back-to-back, or if perhaps FaZe will reclaim another major, or maybe, who knows, an upset from the likes of Thieves or Subliners in the works. But we won't know until the major is done and dusted how that is going to shake out with our power rankings. So reverse sweep, that'll be it for us right now. Not a lot of movement at the top, not a lot of movement at the bottom, but everyone in the middle shuffling around just a little bit. OpTic falling down, of course, to 8th, being our biggest mover of the power rankings. And Enable Pacman, thank you as always. Let us know in the comments what you think about the power rankings and what you think is going to happen after the major. And until then, guys, we will see you later.